My name is Hari Bhaskar. I'm 24 years old and I live in New York City.
And how long have you lived in New York for?
2.5 years.
Where did you live before that?
I was in India.
And did you go to school in India or did you come to the United States for college?
I came to the United States for acting school. I did my undergrad in Delhi, in India, and I came to New York in 2021 for acting school, and I graduated last year.
And what did you study in college in India?
I did my undergrad in social sciences and humanities. It was a triple majors in English, history, and psychology.
What was that, English?
History and psychology.
A lot of school then.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And what did you want to do when you were going to college, getting a triple major? What was your goals and aspirations with those degrees?
Honestly, I've wanted to become an actor since I was 17. But my mom was like, you need to pursue like a professional degree before that. So my first preference was history. It was my second preference that was the triple majors. Honestly, the only reason why I took the triple majors was because for the college that I joined eventually, I was on the merit list, like on the third merit list for the triple majors. That's the main reason why I joined. It was because I wasn't getting any placements in any colleges, so that's the main reason why I took it. But then I ended up liking it and glad that it all turned out.
So once you graduated, had the triple majors, did you immediately move to New York City to go to acting school after that?
Actually, I was stuck in India for a year, almost a year, because of COVID. I was supposed to come here in 2020, September of 2020 to be exact, but I had to delay it because I couldn't get my visa on time. I had to wait till January of 2021 to be able to come to the United States. So yeah, I came to the United States mainly for acting school, and that's also the main reason why I'm staying back. Like I'm waiting for my visa and stuff, but that's like that goal in mind is what is making me stay here back in the United States.
Awesome. And what's your career been once you finish acting school?
Oh, so I'm already done with acting school. I've been a professional actor for the last 1 year right now. So as an actor, naturally, it's a very feast or famine kind of a business. Like one day you might be getting a lot of offers in the sense that you don't have dates to cover up all of them, and then after maybe a few months later, a few months down the line, you won't have any work. Like you'll have like so many free dates and there's not like you audition and all that, and yet you still don't get cast in anything. So, yeah, it's a very feast or famine business, especially right now with the strike that's happening, both the writer strike as well as the SAG-AFTRA strike. So, it's not a very good time right now in the industry, especially in terms of like very high paying stuff. As it is, this industry is very unstable. So right now, the most that we can do is like audition obviously and like create like our own work basically. So yeah.
Yeah. So how is, just for anyone watching, how is the strikes affecting your work directly in terms of new gigs, new opportunities?
There's just no work happening right now, like in terms of like if as an actor, like sure you want to be able to do you want to be able to do very creative kind of projects, but at the same time, if acting's like your full-time job, you also want to be able to make money from purely from acting alone, and to be able to sustain yourself and like whatever sort of wants and needs that you have to be able to like satisfy all of them, you do need to be able to have good paying acting gigs. And unfortunately, the arts is one industry where not a lot of funds go into it. Like it's a very influential industry. As a result, the only way you can sort of curb the influence of arts is by limiting the funding that goes to the arts. So unfortunately, like if I were to if I wanted to act in like a big movie or like a series on like say HBO or Amazon or like Netflix, or even do like a film like that of Universal or I don't know like a Disney movie, like a Disney live action movie, or like a Marvel or any of those big picture Paramount. There's just no new projects that are happening at this point, unfortunately. It's yeah, so in that way, it's a very dark time in the industry. There are like maybe small projects that are happening, but a they're either unpaid, or B, they don't pay a lot, in the sense that you wouldn't be able to sustain your life purely through acting. You would have to do like a side hustle or something like that. And preferably as actors, we would just want to put all of our energy into acting. We don't want to like sort of divide it and branch it out into like different sectors, especially in ones where we really don't want to work, maybe like services, or like yeah, just doing like a front desk job that we don't really like, something like that.
Yeah, definitely can see how that can affect you and affect opportunities for you to further your acting career right now with that happening. Speaking of what are your future career goals? Is it always going to be acting from here on out, or
Oh yeah,
have-
definitely. Acting is definitely my first love, but I also realize like it's important to be realistic about it. Especially because I'm a colored immigrant actor in the United States. So for me to especially get like bigger jobs, it's going to be 5 times more difficult than like say my like a white contemporary of mine. And especially like to be able to do these kinds of big projects without like sort of context, you got to like it's like I don't have a head start. Like I've got to build everything from scratch. Like not discounting the privilege that I've had, like being able to come all the way from India to be able to attend acting school over here. And by God's grace, I've been able to like build a small network in New York, which hopefully like the network that you build right now would probably be the future of the industry in like the next 10, 20 years. But without having like a head start where like, oh, my dad's in the industry, or like my mom knows someone, or like my granddad or my uncle, like family connections. If you don't have any of those, it's very difficult to like be able to sort of climb up the ranks in this industry. So my goal as a South Asian actor is to be able to increase the representation of South Asians in the industry, bring out more, not just South Asian, but also like minority stories out there. Because right now there's like a dearth of like there are good stories out there, but it's just that they're not getting enough coverage. They're not getting enough like eyeballs. Like they're not being visible enough. And like the industry has just become so money centered that all projects are sort of like cash grabs, which is why they go for like sequels and franchises and all that kind of stuff. And that's also one of the reasons why the strikes are happening right now, because all the executives, all the top studio executives, they're like hoarding up the cash in their own circles, and it's not filtering down towards the people who are sort of building these projects, like the writers, the actors, and there's also like the possibility of being replaced by AI, because obviously if once you replace it with AI, you don't have to like branch out the money towards that sector. It can still be concentrated among the studio executives. So yeah, that way, like my ultimate goal is to definitely be one of the first South Asian A-listers in the industry, and through that use my influence to increase the representation of not just South Asians but all minorities, and bring out their stories to the fore. So yeah.
I think that's a great goal, and obviously coming to India without a network in America and trying to build that acting career, I think you can definitely make a difference in with your story and with your successes to help other individuals grow and learn and become prominent in the acting world as well.
Absolutely.
What financial goals do you have related to your career?
Um, Definitely, like, New York is a very expensive city. Um, right now, like at least in terms of rent, my parents have been helping me out. They've been helping me out financially. Also because of my visa situation, I'm only able to do certain kinds of jobs. Like I'm not able to, say, work at a coffee shop or like work as a waiter, because legally I'm not allowed to do such kind of work. So I have to try and work around that as well. Like unfortunately, I had to borrow money from home rather, like for the first time in like 6 months, a few weeks ago, because I've just not been getting any gigs, unfortunately. Right now, thankfully, they're slowly picking up a little bit because it's the summer, and usually I'm more of a stage actor, and theater, especially small scale theater, they really pick up during the summer and fall months. So hopefully I can sort of financially sustain myself that way, at least a little bit in terms of like paying bills and my things like groceries and like social life and all that kind of stuff. But also like I realized like I can't just depend upon acting alone for my income. So I started a photography business recently. So I realized like it's important to like sort of branch out as well. It's one advice that I got that you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. You got to like diversify. So I started my photography business, and I've also started investing through Acorns. So
Sorry, I was thinking what I was going to say next.
oh yeah.
Tell us more about the photography business, and then we'll kind of dive into your upbringing from India. What inspired you to start the photography business? Do you have any previous experience with photography, or where did that come from?
So basically, my uncle had gifted me like a DSLR camera a few years ago, before the pandemic actually. And I've been using that DSLR to like shoot all my self tapes and stuff. And when the strike and it all was happening, and my debit card, like the money was almost over, I didn't want to use my credit card too much as well. So I was like, I really got to find like a side hustle, one which will allow me to pursue it legally as well. And that's I now photography for me was like the best bet, because I was like, I have a camera now. The only thing is I got to learn. And photography, honestly, it's one of the easiest things to learn, because I mean, it's all about practice. Like once you know the basics, it's all about practice. Like you can find like a whole photography school on YouTube just through the videos. So yeah, once you know the basic triad of like ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, then you can just, it's all about experimentation, and then like learning how to edit your pictures using Photoshop. It's all about learning on the go, which is how I am as a person as well. I love learning on the go instead of like sitting down and trying to like learn it from like a book or something like that. I'll be honest, like it's only been a few weeks. It's been like almost a month since I started. It hasn't been going that well. Like in the sense that I've tried to put up flyers across the city in different acting rehearsal studios. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten any calls from them per se. And what I realize is, even to put up advertisements online, you've got to be able to pay. And I'm like, if I'm not getting money from my photography just yet, I don't know if I can really invest anything right now per se. So I'm like hoping that I can make enough money from acting where I can pay for my rent, at least for a few months, pay for my rent, pay for my bills, and then have a little money on the side which I can use for advertisements, like for example on Yelp or something. Because Yelp, the minimum is like $150 per month, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do 150 a month purely for advertisements. I might take that risk maybe next month or something, but yeah.
When it comes to like growing that business, photography business, have you tried reaching out to like other local photographers, asking if they need a secondhand shooter, or if you go work for them for free for one shoot, just to get some more experience and start building connections in the photography space in New York?
Honestly, I asked one of my friends. He hasn't been doing any shoots of late. He's been traveling all around. I do have friends who are photographers, but I honestly like, for me, it's the like there are pages on Facebook called TFP, which is time for print. It's basically like a barter exchange where each person exchanges their time, the photographer as well as the model. So like models need to build up their portfolios to they get pictures for free. Photographers similarly need to build up their portfolios, so they also get pictures for free. So I've been doing that quite a bit. Like, I've already done like 5 shoots like that. So finding people is not difficult. Finding paying customers is difficult.
Yeah, makes sense, and that's a good spot to start with building out your portfolio using one of those like barter exchanges like that.
Yeah.
I definitely think too, like reaching out to other photographers in the local area and say, hey, do you need extra shooter, just to start trying to build more practice, whether you do it for free the first shoot or not. That could be just a route to build more connections in the space since you've just started doing this a month ago. Let's dive into kind of your upbringing and financial education as you're growing up in India. What was your childhood like in India?
So honestly, I lived in Dubai for 12 years before I moved to India. I was in India in my home state for like six years, and then in Delhi. the capital city for like 3 years for my undergrad. I mean, I grew up in a very privileged household. I'm an only child, so majority of the times, like my parents wouldn't really say no to whatever I wanted. I was like a little bit of a spoiled brat when I was a kid. I had like these fancy birthday parties and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, like I'd get like, the latest toys and all that. It was very rare that, my parents said no. Most of the time it was my mom who had to play the bad cop, and my dad was a good cop. My dad's from a very my dad's from like a family of businessmen. Like my great grandfather was a businessman, my granddad was a businessman, my dad's also into business. My great grandfather had like a rubber wood business in Kerala, which is my home state in India. He developed the first rubber wood plantation in the world, rubber wood processing plant rather. And my grandfather inherited that, and my dad took up the business for a little bit after my granddad got a heart attack. My dad always wanted to be in the civil services, but unfortunately he couldn't do that because he had to take up the business pretty early. And then he left it, and then my dad started his own business in the Middle East. So yeah, my dad's from a very like a rich family. My mom's from more of a middle class family. My granddad used to work for the Life Insurance Corporation of India. My grandmom was a school teacher. So yeah, my mom's from a very middle class background. So I had a very sort of mixed upbringing that way. Like my dad's was like the very privileged side. So my dad would be like, "Don't look at the price tag, just buy it. If you want it, buy it." My mom would be like, "No, look at the price tag like a million times over, and only if you're absolutely sure to go for it." Like budgeting is very important. Like budgeting and saving is very important. You got to save for the future. Whereas my dad was more like,
Definitely can see that with different parents. Is one is more conservative, one's more hey, spend money.
yeah.
Did they ever talk to you about money growing up?
No, honestly, no. My sort of financial education was listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was one of my biggest influences, yeah, and it still is. And I've also like yeah, most of my financial education has been like just learning by myself. Like recently, I watched this thing called Money Explained on Netflix. That also taught me a lot about like investments, uh, retirement, and kind of stuff. Honestly, I've only been learning it like the last few months, especially. Once I mean, I filed my taxes for the first time like a few months ago. So
Another good Netflix show about money is called How to Be Rich. I think it's called.
yeah, how to be
Ra-
rich.
Ra- Ramit Sethi.
That's on my watch list. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an author as well, and he has a great book called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich," and has a podcast too, and has some great financial lessons and knowledge. So definitely another one to look out for. He's
Oh,
one of my favorite ones. I look up to myself. So,
absolutely.
in what ways did your upbringing, obviously seeing both sides from your mom and your dad, how do you think that kind of shapes your current financial habits?
Uh, I'm honestly like the thing is my dad used to travel a lot when I was in my teenage years. So especially after we moved to India, I spent a lot of time with my mom those 6 years. And I think that's influenced me in a huge way because right now I'm always like, oh, I gotta save shit. Like I can't spend too much. So I've also been a very minimalist kind of a person. Like for example, one of the t-shirts that I'm wearing, I've been wearing it for like the last 7 years. Like most of my clothes are like 5 years plus. I don't have too many quote unquote clothes. Uh, yeah, I don't buy too many clothes. Most of my like if you see the breakdown of my finances, most of my money goes into food and drinks. Even drinks, like I don't, like I'm not someone who drinks like every day. Like alcohol consumption's mostly during the weekends, and even then it's very rare. Like even if I go for a drink, like I'm like one drink, that's like maybe one cocktail, then water, one beer, then water, one seltzer maybe, and then water, and then like one soft drink, and then the night's pretty much done. So usually I just like restrict myself to like one cocktail. I don't go for like multiple ones. I do eat out a lot because I since I know a lot of people in the city, and now since I'm having like free time as well, since I'm not having too many gigs, I'm like okay, I can go meet my friends for like either lunch or dinner. And now I recently joined the theater union, so I have to be in around Times Square like almost every day, like Monday to Friday for auditions. So I'm like, hey, I like maybe text a friend like, hey, I'm in Midtown. You want to meet up for lunch? They'll be like, yeah, sure. Or like coffee or like dinner or something. So like that way, like for me, socializing is very so like I love eating out. Like I love trying out. So if you see, most of my money goes into like groceries and food and drinks. And now, like since I'm doing in-person auditions, like the investment, like headshots and stuff, headshots, resume, like like ink for the printers and all stuff. But in terms of like clothes, no, I haven't bought like I think in the last 2 years maybe I bought like two, like one t-shirt and one shirt, and I had to buy like a few pairs of shorts because like the ones that I had were like they were getting big for me. So like I only buy it out of necessity, not out of want. So yeah, that's where most of my purchases go to, like food and drinks and groceries. But I'm not like, oh, I want the latest phone, or like, oh, I want the latest watch, or like, oh, those kinds of stuff. The one time where I had a surplus, I was like, I have to get new pairs of shoes. So I got a new pair of shoes. So it's like maybe once in a year or like once in 18 months that I might treat myself to like an extra purchase or something.
Makes sense. How would you define your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10? A 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's run through, I guess, your current expenses. And you don't have any debt, correct?
No.
So current expenses, looking at it, gross income $4,000 a month, net income about 3,500. Your rent is about 1985. Live in New York City. Do you have roommates?
No, I live by myself.
Live by yourself. Okay. And a studio apartment, or I guess
Bedroom.
not a studio. It's one bedroom. I see with a door now.
Yeah.
One bedroom, and then you spend about $800 a month on groceries, $900 a month on eating out, and then another 150 between travel and health and fitness. So
Yeah.
spending about 38.5 a month right now, it seems.
Yeah, like it's a very average, like approximate that I put. A lot of the times, like sometimes, like I may not even be spending that much on, like probably come up to like maybe even 500 like a month.
Do you use a budget? Do you sit down and budget your money every single month, or use a budgeting app?
I have like an Excel sheet where I put all my expenses in.
Have you ever thought about using a mobile app that kind of does it for you, automated?
I'd rather just do it by myself.
Okay.
One thing I'm good at is like being on top of things. So I always like, what do you say? Like, yeah, I'm always like, how do I put it? Like, whenever I have like a purchase from outside or something, I put it immediately onto, onto the app, onto the Excel sheet.
You should look at using an app like Mint.com because it does it for you. But if you're doing it in an Excel sheet yourself, that's fine too. What what are your current assets? Do you have any emergency or savings or retirement accounts?
No, like I said, I just joined the theater union recently, so they do have a 401k policy, but I haven't inquired about it just yet. I need to inquire about that soon. But yeah, I really want to start like maybe like a Roth IRA and like a 401k. But I'm like, I want to be able to book something through the union in the first place so that I can earn something sustainable. Then I can think of having like savings and like retirement accounts. So I like I said, like acting is a very unstable job. So I might want to wait another, at least maybe a year or two before I start considering about like Roth IRA and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you started investing through Acorns. When did you start that, and how much money you put in there?
So those are like index funds, and right last month I put in like $120. Yeah.
And is there a reason you're doing, I guess, putting money into investment accounts when you're still borrowing money from your parents to pay for rent, or
So what I do is like, so when I spend things on my credit card, for example, I get the points. So I use those points to like sort of like get money and then put that into my investment accounts. Yeah.
do you think that's kind of backwards, instead of using that to put towards investment accounts, making sure that you can pay your bills first where you're not having to borrow money?
I haven't really thought about it being backwards per se. I'm just like I did want to start investing as early as possible, and I thought like anyways I'm getting like points through my credit card. Like even if I'm like even if I do book small gigs along the way, and like I'm spending like I'm spending things on my credit card. I'm like, if I'm making points off of that, I don't want to use those points to like sort of, like be like, hey, I have some extra money, I can like, be a spendthrift for this month. No, I'd rather use that to like put it into an investment account. I'm like, I do want to start investing. I did want to start investing as early as possible. So I'm like, in whatever small ways I can do that, then yeah, I might as well just do that. So no, I don't think of it as being backward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with trying to invest as early and often as possible, but I guess from my point of view, if you're making $3,500 a month and you're spending $3,800 a month, that's a $300 deficit you're operating at essentially every single month, where you're spending $300 more than you're actually making. It doesn't make sense to be investing money when you can't cover your basic needs either. Whether
Right.
it's used through credit card points or not, that money should be going to pay for your own bills, so then you don't have to be borrowing money from your parents, or covering the purchases of stuff you had previously purchased that month or the previous month. So
Gotcha. Now, also like on the sheet that I sent you, like I see like the net income was like 3,500 and like my total expenses were 38. Usually what I only realized that like a month or two ago that my taxes took out a huge portion out of it basically. So like even in terms of like adjusting, I think I gave like a very approximate account. So like to be honest, it doesn't like how do I say this? It doesn't really go into a like a sort of deficit in a way per se. Yeah, like so in terms of like because I said like the total was like 4 grand and like the net was like 35. I try to adjust it in terms of like, the taxable income as well, like how much goes into taxes. So usually more often than not, it's usually less than whatever net income.
so typically your income's higher than 3,500, you're saying?
Not the income, my like the amount of money that I spend out of it.
Okay, your spending is typically lower than your net income. So you're
Yeah,
not operating at a
yeah.
loss right
No,
now.
no, no.
Okay.
It's usually less
Because
than.
according to the spreadsheet you are, and according to the budget you sent me, you are operating at a loss every single month. So
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Then that's
yeah.
my bad.
Yeah. Because right now it has you spending 3,843 a month and you're bringing in 3,500. So
Okay,
that's where I understand. Hey, you're operating at a loss, where if you are having to borrow money from parents, if you're not able to even cover your current needs and the current expenses, then investing should be the last thing on your plate. Your current thing should be, okay, how do I increase my income and how do I get my expenses down, so you're not spending more money than you're making every single month.
got it.
I was going to ask, what are some of your financial mistakes you've made in the past?
Mistakes. I think like honestly like I see if I got scammed anytime or something. Nothing really to be honest. I think it's more like I'm still very new to this journey, I would say. So it's like I think it's more for me personally, it's more about learning how to earn more. I don't know if it's about like any yeah, like any mistake per se, I can't really think of it.
And what's your goal? I guess we'll backtrack it to so a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago, you said you had to borrow money from your parents for rent and stuff. How much did you have to borrow from them?
So they send me like 3 grand. So like two was for the rent and then the rest grand was for my expenses. So yeah, that was like yeah, 3 grand is what I borrowed. And usually when I borrow, I try to like whatever I borrow, like I try to spend as less money out of it as possible.
And what's your goal moving forward, so you don't have to continue to borrow money from your parents?
Definitely grow the photography business and also try and book more gigs. So yeah, whatever ways I can do. I mean, my hands are kind of tied in this situation, so it's like, trying to do as much as I can.
And you spoke about your visa. You're limited in certain opportunities or gigs you can or can't do. You can't go work in a coffee shop. Are
Yeah.
there other gigs or other opportunities you're able to pursue or able to do in New York City?
More like it, they have to be in my field. So it's only like, yeah, photography or like working PA on set, being like a second AD or something. It's all like industry related kind of stuff. And a lot of the times you don't get paid too well. So like I said, not too many funds go into the arts. So there's only so much that you can do out of it. So yeah.
It's definitely a difficult industry to be in from a compensation perspective, like you said, it's a lot of jobs are not the most highest paid jobs in the world.
Yeah,
Some of them are unpaid too, and there's a lot of competition in the space as well because a lot of people want to be in it. So,
absolutely.
have you ever made any like risky investments? Do you think over the last few years, or have you stayed away from investing until you started doing acorns?
Stayed away till I started doing acorns, and even in acorns, I'm doing low risk, low reward. So yeah.
Acorns, I mean, I think Acorns is a great platform. It puts you in index funds and it breaks it out. They have the bond options, they have the conservative approach, they have the aggressive approaches. And I think that it's a good starting point for people to start understanding the power of investing, compound interest, like growing your acorn tree, or growing a tree starting from an acorn and sprouting. And I think it's a great platform. So definitely one that I think people, if they're new to investing, need to learn. It's a heck of a lot better to do that than, hey, let's go drop money and YOLO it into some single stock. So,
No, absolutely.
what's the best financial advice you've ever received?
Think like best financial advice. Like I've heard of a lot of really good quotes from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think it's definitely, I would say, there was something that was said in Rich Dad Poor Dad about yeah, like being rich is not like it's more of a state of like yeah, like being rich is more of a state of mind rather than money that you have. Like you can have all the money in the world, but if you have a poor mindset, then you would always like feel like, oh, I don't have enough. It's trying more to do the best with what you have. I think that's one of the best advices that I've got.
Makes sense. So I guess we're almost done here. What stresses you the most about money right now?
Uh, Sorry, come again.
What stresses you the most about money right now? Or does money stress you at all right now?
Just not having enough. Yeah. I
Doesn't
mean,
matter enough.
yeah.
And how receptive were your parents when, I guess, being not having enough money to cover your bills a few weeks ago? How receptive were your parents when you reached out to them and asked them for financial help?
Oh, they're always like, oh, we can send you money. Like, there's like money in your Indian savings bank account. So like, we can just convert it to dollars and send it to you. There's no problem. Like they always ask, do you need money? Do you need money? Do you need money? Like a lot of the times I'm like, no, it's fine. I have enough. Like I try and not borrow as much as possible, but yeah.
What switched on your mom? Because I think previously you said she wanted you to get a degree and not go into acting. Did something switch on her? Is she supportive of the acting career, or does she still kind of want you to use your degree?
I mean, like she realized my passion for it, so like, she's a lot more supportive right now. And there's only so much that you can do with an undergrad degree as well. And like I said, I can only do certain kinds of jobs here in the United States based upon my visa situation as well. So since I did my education in the States in an acting program, I can only do acting related stuff. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions I had. Really, just wanted to chat and really appreciate you sharing your background, coming from India over to the United States and trying to build a career in acting. I think you're heading in the right direction. Obviously, I think right now it's how do you get your income up? How do you get more gigs so you're not having to borrow money from your parents, but you have income coming in. Live in New York City on a budget. Obviously, having a rent for $2,000, I don't think that's really that common in New York City. So you have a good spot in a one-bedroom apartment for under $2,000. So you're not going crazy and you're not in debt. So excited to hear that. But just figuring out, I think the best thing for you is how do you increase your income, find more gigs, find more opportunities in your industry so you can wheelhouse of having to borrow money and you can continue to start building wealth and start investing into your future. So
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today and really appreciate you joining, sharing your story, and hopefully anyone watching this can learn something from you, and been a great chatting. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
what's up, everyone? We just finished recording with Hari. He's living in New York City, trying to make an acting career. It's a big city, difficult industry to succeed in, but he's got some traction making $3,500 to $4,000 a month in acting gigs and trying to find more work, more opportunities. His biggest issue is not making enough money in such an expensive city when he's got rent that's $2,000 and he's netting $3,500 a month. That's over 56% of his income. I think right now it's just how does he get more gigs? How does he find more income? He is tied to certain limitations with his visa. He is fortunate to be in a spot where he does have support from his parents that are able to help him out when he is not able to make enough money. I really appreciate his time today, just sharing his story, his challenges in the acting world, and hopefully you learned something, have some takeaways from this. And we'll see you next time. If you want to be on the show, make sure you drop me an email at the email in the description. And we'd love to have you on here, whether it's talking about debt issues, financial struggles, new jobs, investing, anything in between. We'd love to have you. We'd love to chat. And we'll see you next time.